everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Meet the Author to Rooted to Rise. And this one is in particularly very special and unique because not only do we have the beautiful Emily here, but we actually finally have the copy of the book, the tangible, physical, we get to hold it in our hands copy of Rooted to Rise. So I'm so excited to be able to share that. But first, I want to introduce you to Emily Blessing, one of the authors of this book. She has been on this journey with me for the last 7 years and even before that, and just all the things. So we've been in this together for 7 years, and that's just so exciting. We have a lot of history together, and we've just been able to have the honor of being voices for so long and won't stop, won't ever quit. And so, Emily, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on. This has been, wow, an incredible journey. Like Rachelle said, we've known each other for the last 7 years, and we've just been kind of doing this cannabis, hemp, figuring it all out together. And before I met Rachelle, and still to this day, I work in schools. So I have kind of had that connection with Rachelle that she's always, mentored students, and that's kind of what I think I do. It's just in the school setting and more behavioral focus. So I'm a mom. I work in education. I just live here in Missouri and just am trying to help people any way I can, whether it be in school with their kids or introducing them to the plant or being an ear to listen or whatever. So it's just a little bit about me.
Well, thank you. Well, we're going to dig into the juicy questions because really this podcast is all about getting to know you and getting to know you now as a published author. So that's super exciting. So, what inspired you to start writing your story? And what was the initial spark that led you to put pen to paper?
Um, I mean, for the last, 7 years, we've all been writing our story along the way. We just have never, until Rochelle really encouraged us to and proposed the idea, we never really sat down and wrote all the pieces of it. We've been sharing on Facebook, we've been sharing in, little personal meetups that we do. We've been sharing at events. We've been sharing our story, but actually kind of putting in a chronological order, putting it, in a written perspective that people could see was really just, I appreciate the encouragement because we've all been doing it. We just never actually sat down to compile it. And I think that was, the beautiful part of doing this together is it like we were doing it individually, but we were doing it as a group. And a lot of us had been on a very similar journey, even if our reasons for, using the plant were different. We've just been on a very similar journey with having such great success, learning everything we can, and then deciding to publicly be a voice. So that's kind of, I feel like, how it all went down.
Yeah, I mean, talk about how publicly our voices are going to be. So,
Yeah.
just I wanted to quickly share your chapter, this beautiful Cannabis is Medicine, and there is hope in hemp, and there definitely is. So, that's super exciting that I got to share your chapter. A little bit of that. Yeah, I totally agree with the fact that, we're doing this on what I feel is a bigger level now. We are not only doing the book, we're not only doing the podcast, but there's just so many other opportunities that are going to come about from really putting it to paper. So I'm super excited about that. And you shared a little bit about this, but how did you feel the first time you shared your story in this way? And, like writing it down, did you share it with someone before you sent it to editing? And if so, what reactions did you receive?
Um, I shared it with my good friend Jill, and it was like immediately after I sent it, I felt like I needed to vomit. Because it was like, these are my words, and then now I'm sharing them with her, and then it was just like, oh, it's been a feeling constantly of I want to share my journey and I want to share my story, but kind of like a fight of it's really personal, you know. I mean, it's sharing some really intimate details of, you know, some medical history and personal things that I went through and, you know, where and how cannabis played a role in all of that sometimes. And sometimes that part even felt like judgy. Are people going to judge me if I share that I used this as a tool during this period of my life or this period or whatever? And, you know, yeah, so
I think
just
that's the beautiful vulnerability part, though, is that we're breaking stigmas while walking through them ourselves. You
yeah.
know, that when people say to themselves, oh, I don't want to even consider it because I'm afraid of judgment, I'm afraid of, being seen differently and all of that, we're stepping through it and giving others permission to step through it as well and let them know that it's okay to want to vomit, be terrified, whatever it is, because we're
Yeah.
doing it too. And I think that that's the power of sharing stories, no matter what it is that you're showing someone that it can be done because you did it first. And everybody, I know I have watched women in my life that did it first. And so it gave me permission to allow myself to do it as well, on different avenues. And that's the power of storytelling, really, of that. Um, so you dabbled into this a bit. Were there any challenges or fears that you faced while writing or sharing your story, and how did you overcome them? So you shared that you overcame it a bit by sharing it with your friend and then sending it to editing, but are there any other parts of that journey that you want to share that you didn't already have a chance to, that, you know, how are you feeling on the other side now?
um I think one of the biggest challenges was I would go to write a piece of it, and because so much of this journey is kind of like going back into your past, it would be writing that down, rereading it, editing it a little bit, maybe writing a little bit more. And then if I had to like walk away for whatever reason, once I came back to it, it was kind of like, holy cow, like you are taken back to those emotions that you felt, those experiences, the way that certain life situations made you feel. And so going through that, you know, and then we'd have to come back to the story, however long it took me, a day or a week, sometimes later, and then jump back to that moment, like where I left off. So that to me was the hardest part, is that as much as I want people to know that there is hope in hemp, there's been a lot of struggle through my journey that before I found the plant, you know, and so reliving that, it makes me grateful for this day. It makes me grateful to be able to share my story, but it also it reminds me that there's so many people out there that are still suffering, and I think that's the hardest part of where I'm at now with this, is that when people read this, I do think there's going to be a lot of people that they're at where we were, you
Mhm.
know, and it's going to be eye opening for a lot of people that there is a healthier way. And it isn't easy, but if you really want it, there's seven of us that can kind of prove to you that it's out there, you know. And I think that's the part that I haven't fully accepted yet, is that this is going to kind of shake up a lot of people. And that's a good thing, but it's a part of their journey next, you know.
Exactly. I love that part where it's meant to shake it up, right?
Yeah.
And that was kind of one of the purposes of taking it from the social media, the one-on-ones, everything, and literally putting it into a book that's just going to be out there for forever. We pioneered something that no one else has felt brave enough to do. And bravery doesn't come when you're always comfortable, and you are a beautiful example of do it anyways. And so I love that. So going into that, what words from your experience would you give to other aspiring authors, not necessarily just writing about this particular subject, but authors as a whole sharing, sometimes those vulnerable stories. So authors that might be hesitant about sharing their own stories with others, what advice from your experience or anything like that would you give them?
Just kind of permission to be real with yourself and like live your truth. And I think that's what you have to do if you are going to write your own story down, whether it be a journey that you've been on or, sharing a part of your heart or something that you've gone through or whatever it is. I think you have to really own it and be okay with the fact that this is a part of you. And if you can share it and be real with your journey and it can come across someone else that might need to hear what you have to say, like that's to me the importance of this. Like we don't know who needs to hear what we have to share, but along our journey, all the people that came into my path, they all played a role. And so that's kind of why I just feel that people do, they just they need the permission to just own that part of your story, own what you want to share with others, and just really kind of hone in on what you want your overall message to be. And that was kind of along the way. I know my personal like when I was writing my own personal story, sometimes it felt like the meaning was being forgotten because there was just so much to this, so I had to kind of like back up and be like, okay, what is the most important message? Like, what is the most important thing that I want people to take from this? So,
Well, and you did such an amazing job in your chapter of when I read it, it felt like I was there with you and it was very organized. Like I stepped into that beginning part with you and just kept walking through it. So I think that's what the readers are really going to find is that you did such a great job of taking us back and sitting in those spaces with you and then being able to celebrate and come out of them with you as well. So such an amazing chapter, really honing into the message of hemp is hope, but you also showed us so many other things that created hope. And so it wasn't just hemp. It was so many things that you did to get yourself through some really, really difficult times. So I'm very grateful to have that chapter in there. The messages are limitless. So it wasn't just one message. With that, what is something from your heart, maybe something you haven't shared with us, a word, some words of encouragement, anything? What would you like to share from your heart as we complete this? And what are you feeling now, knowing that it's less than 5 weeks away from being released?
okay, those are two things for sure. Two things. I'm going to start with the second one. What I'm feeling now is it is a lot of up and down emotion because I'm very excited and I'm excited for everything that we're doing, but it's also another level of it's getting really real. So that's the second part. I think the first part, like what I want to leave people with and kind of what I want to share and what I hope is like my overall message is that you, you're a human, you're a mammal, you have an endocannabinoid system. And this system helps you respond to stress and adversity. It's part of what it does. And cannabis helps calm the ECS. And so it doesn't happen with one serving, but with consistency over time, it can really help you get back to a place where you're like running like a well-oiled machine. And the true magic lies within each person's story because it's so tailored to you. It's so tailored to what you need. And it's so interesting as we've, had our stories be shared is that they're very similar, but they're different and what it has really brought to each of our lives because we all are different people, our genetic makeup is different, how our bodies operate are, they're similar, but they're all very different in what we all need. And so that's the beauty of this plant is that it really can be individually tailored for you. And you kind of just have to reach out to us and anyone that, that you feel that could really help guide you in this way because it is a little tricky. but it's very possible to find, some good hope and relief with our help and with the plant for sure. So,
Yay. Well, thank you so much. It was so important. Not only do our voices matter through the words, but our voices matter through getting to know the authors, getting to see them, hear their voice. Sometimes you can read something, but it doesn't always come across the exact way as hearing your voice. So thank you so much for being a part of this Meet the Author. We so appreciate you listening. And if you have any questions, want to connect with Emily, all of her information will be on this podcast, as well as the information. You can reach out to wildlyfreellc.com. So thank you so much for listening, and I can't wait for you to get your hands on the book. The release comes out February 11th for the digital and February 25th to get your hands on it. I really encourage you to do both because this is a work of art. There, you can see there's colored pages in there and everything. And this is really going to be a valuable book that you can even pass on to other people. So thank you so much for listening. Bye.